In your hobby, what's the first mistake rookies always make? Too scared to do it because they're worried they're going to kill things. Newsflash. Behind my beautiful gardens is a massive graveyard of composted plants and seedlings that I've killed over the years. Cooking. Trying to cook something for the first time for a dinner party for guests. Thinking buying fancy equipment will replace months, years of training. Cyclist. Houseplants. Not watering them thoroughly but also watering too often. Most plants like a good soak when dried out, not a little pour from a cup every day. I think this goes for generally for any hobby. Investing high amounts of cash. For art, it's buying tools and supplies you don't need or won't use. Even if you commit to it, try to work with stuff that's as close to free first and see where you go with it. Try to buy supplies from a dollar store or garage sale. Or maybe a pawn shop? Yeah, I'll buy the 3-year pass. Username very much related. What are some disturbing facts about space? That we, as a planet, are literally flying through space. I don't just mean around the sun. Because our solar system is flying through space as well. Along with our galaxy too. Where Earth was 1 minute ago is a point in space that we will never return to. If you gathered together all the matter in the universe we can observe right now and squished it together until it had the density of water, 1 gm per centimeter cubed, it would fit into a cube about 1 light-year on each side. There are several disturbing things about this. A single light-year is almost unimaginably huge. A cubic light-year is a ridiculous volume of space. The observable universe is 33 orders of magnitude larger than that. It is almost entirely empty. Here's one closer to home. The Kessler effect is the theory that a single destructive event in low Earth orbit could create a cascade where satellites break up into tiny fragments, taking out other satellites, breaking up into smaller fragments, and so on, until the Earth is completely surrounded by a massive cloud of tiny flying death shrapnel, which would make leaving this planet almost impossible. If you look up how much space debris there is already up there and how many satellites currently orbit, plus the continued growth of the commercial space industry, I think about it a lot. The largest black hole we have discovered has a diameter of 490.000.000.000 kilometers. Earth's diameter is roughly 13.000 kilometers. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. Carl Sagan. The fact that Voyager 2 space probe after over 40 years has not even hit a pebble. If March 2020 continued on as normal, with no pandemic for the following 2 years, what would your life be like today? 3 days prior to my work sending us all home, for a couple weeks, I found out my wife I had been with since I was 14. 18 years total at the time. Had been cheating on me for years. It's possible if I had been going to work daily I would have been too distracted to dig in deeper to find the rest of her lies and finally end the marriage. We finally got divorced a month ago. Edit. If you care about the whole story, it's here. https
www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/un_march_2020_score/as_no/i9hefkeg/.
I probably wouldn't have downloaded Reddit. Decent odds that my husband would be alive. He didn't die to COVID, but in retrospect I'm pretty sure that he hid being in pain because he was afraid to go to a hospital and earlier treatment might have led to better outcomes in surgery. I would probably still be stuck in a few friendships that I realized during quarantine weren't good. My girlfriend would still be alive. Hopefully she'd be celebrating her 3rd year of remission from lymphoma and looking forward to her 30th birthday. Fuck COVID and fuck cancer. I would have just completed my 3rd year, working towards my PhD, and would probably be about to celebrate 10.5 years together with my partner. Ex-pro-lifers, what changed your mind on abortions? I grew up in a religious household where sexual relationships before marriage were considered a sin, and abortions were considered murder. A friend of mine dated an abusive asshole and she got pregnant. We were all in college at the time and she didn't have enough money nor support to raise the kid. Her parents were extremely angry and refused to speak with her because she ruined her life. We became roommates because I saw she needed a place to stay. Until then, I'd always thought of women who got abortion as cruel. But I saw how helpless she was and how torn she was about the whole thing. After a few weeks of hospital visits, she realized that she didn't have any other choice because of her financial instability, and she also felt like she wasn't mature or ready enough to give birth to and raise another human being while she was still getting over the trauma of a relationship, and she was afraid of messing up an innocent kid's life, so she got an abortion. After seeing all that happen, I realized that abortion wasn't just people fucking around and then murdering an innocent child. It was when people were in situations where they knew they weren't ready for a child. I was raised with the religious pro-life outlook, and to believe all who had abortions were just devastated for the rest of their lives. That they didn't comprehend the gravity of what they had done until it was too late. Then I went to college and met someone in a women's studies class who shared she had had an abortion while married to a man nobody knew was abusive. I realized I had been misled about the realities of why people have abortions. When I suffered an assault a year later, I knew what choice I would make if it came down to it. And I was grateful to know I would have had a choice in that scenario. Working with homeless adults and at-risk teens, social work really solidified that for me. When you see abused and neglected kids and you know the parent didn't want any of those babies but has them because they were pressured out of an abortion. Children should not be punishment or accountability lessons. They should be wanted and loved. The exceptions were too numerous and sometimes too obscure to be properly written into law. So the law shouldn't restrict it. Myself. This one is genuinely really very sorry. When I was younger, I was assaulted by a family friend. I wasn't pregnant, but when I had to get the test, the lady told me, if anything goes wrong. My sister works at Planned Parenthood. She was a very sweet woman. But at that time I was like, I would never abort a child. I remember genuinely shaking and crying before I had to take the test because it reminded me of what happened. I was negative. But the fear of having to raise the child that was forcibly put into me made me genuinely sick to my stomach. I decided to move away from my small religious community. I meet people who had different backgrounds. Listened to stories of people who had abortions. Realized that if I was in their position, then I would have considered abortion too. Then I learned that abortion was rife within my small community. Just not talked about and deeply shameful. The same people who picketed at those rallies also coerced their underage teenagers into having abortions when they turned up pregnant. It was not about the unborn, it was about their image in the community and their control over others' bodies. It's about power and inflicting their worldview on everybody. I was raised Catholic, so I was bombarded with pro-life propaganda from a young age. It seemed really obvious to me too. Why not save 2 lives instead of just 1? 9 months of inconvenience for the pregnant woman but permanent death for the baby? It all seemed like simple math. It was learning more about how serious and potentially dangerous pregnancy is that changed my mind. That and the science convinced me that the idea that human life begins at conception is untenable. There's a reason pro-life propaganda posters almost always show fully born babies to make you think this is the killing of a human. Whatever personal philosophical beliefs one has about when life begins, Having the state force the issue in a way that requires women to undergo a dangerous and life-altering physical process is indefensible. I can tell you, based on my experience, that there are some pro-choice arguments that won't work on someone who believes now what I believed then. Slogans like, "Trust women," miss the point for these people. It's not about the women to them. It's about the baby they think exists and which they have been religiously motivated to believe they're saving. Similarly, saying, "If you don't like abortion, don't have one," also misses the mark. As far as they're concerned, that's like saying, "If you don't like murder, don't kill people. Just don't stop me from doing it." These kinds of slogans treat pro-lifers as confused pro-choicers. They're not. They really do think they're saving babies. You have to show how medically unreasonable of a judgment that is and how horrific it is to force someone to undergo a pregnancy in the interest of something of such questionable humanity. Subscribe, my brothers.